Practical manual for transforming leaders from what it calls cautious police managers into what we want them to be, risk architects. The framework is called Voltage PMR. Right off the bat, this idea flips the whole concept of corporate safety on its head. I mean, forget about the security of having a ton of cash in the bank. According to this framework, the real measure of how safe your company is its ability to constantly reinvent itself. It's a pretty provocative thought, right? So let's unpack what that actually means. This slide just nails the central conflict. On the left, you've got this flat line, this illusion of control. But really, that's stagnation. That's death. Then on the right, you have the reality of what modern leadership is all about, embracing disruption. The goal isn't to prevent fires anymore. It's to build a team that's basically fireproof and actually thrives in the heat. So let's start with the kind of leader that's pretty much going extinct. The museum guardian. You know the type. Their whole job is just to protect what's already there, polishing the artifacts of the past, even if it costs them the future. Now, what's so powerful here is the side-by-side comparison. The old-school manager, when something goes wrong, asks, who's responsible for this mess? It's a witch hunt. The high-voltage leader asks a totally different question. Okay, what new data do we have now that we didn't have yesterday? See the difference? One's looking for a scapegoat. The other is hunting for intelligence. One is driven by fear, the other by progress. So, how do you actually become this high-voltage leader? Well, the framework uses this really cool analogy from the world of physics to explain it. In physics, right, voltage is the potential difference that gets electrons moving. Well, in leadership, high voltage is the potential difference between where you are, the status quo, and a future you're willing to risk it all for. You create this powerful, positive tension, and you do it through the three things you see here: radical transparency, killing hierarchical fear, and actually incentivizing disruption. And you create this voltage through three critical actions. First up, radical transparency. That means putting all the cards, all the dangers, right on the table for everyone to see. Second, death to hierarchical fear. And this is key. The leader has to be the first one to admit their own mistakes. And third, you have to create incentives for disruption, rewarding people for bold, audacious moves, even if they don't turn into a huge market success. But here's the thing. You can't just tell people, hey, go take more risks. It doesn't work like that. You have to build the foundation first. And that foundation is all about safety. Specifically, what the framework calls the psychological safety protocol for risk. And let's be absolutely crystal clear about this. Psychological safety is not about being nice or lowering your standards. It's the complete opposite. It's about creating an environment so free of interpersonal fear that you can demand aggressive, relentless excellence from everyone. Why? Because they know they can speak up, they can disagree, they can even fail without getting punished for it. The crucial point is this. When people are afraid to bring you bad news, what do? They stay silent. And as this slide says, that silence is the single most expensive risk your company can have. A high-voltage leader doesn't shoot the messenger, they reward the messenger for spotting a landmine early. A safe environment also understands that not all failures are created equal. And I love this matrix. On one side, you've got entropy failure. That's just negligence, right? Making a mistake in territory you know well. That stuff needs to be eliminated. But on the other side, you have fuel failure. This is a strategic bet in unknown territory. The goal here isn't necessarily to succeed, it's to learn. It's a failure that generates priceless data. It's fuel. So how do you turn those failures into fuel? You need a ritual. This one's called the autopsy table. It's a super simple 3-step process to make sure you're learning, not blaming. Step 1, depersonalize the error. It's not about who failed, it's about which hypothesis failed. Step 2, extract the gold. What do we actually learn? And finally, step 3, update the algorithm. How does this new data change our next big move? Okay, so once you have that foundation of safety, now you can focus on the team. And you don't want employees who are just looking for comfort. No, you need to recruit and train risk hunters. And you find these hunters by looking for things that might make a traditional HR manager a little nervous. You see a gap in their resume? Don't ask why they weren't working. Ask what they were trying to build. Side hustles? That shows a mind that is always on. A history of jumping between different industries? That tells you their identity is about creating value, not protecting some job title. So how do you actually find these people in an interview? Well, here are 3 killer questions to ask. This first one evaluates their jump calculation. You're listening for someone who can actually explain the logic behind a calculated leap of faith.
This second question is all about their relationship with failure. And the key word here is proud. If they don't have an answer or if they sound ashamed of their answer, that's a huge red flag. A true risk hunter is proud of their scars because of the priceless lessons that came with them.
And this last one, this one tests for an aggressive, almost predatory strategic vision. Are they willing to cannibalize your own success to invent the future? Here's a tip. If a candidate makes you feel intellectually comfortable, they are probably not a risk hunter. Now, once you have the hunters, you put them on a risk diet. This isn't a one-time workshop, it's constant training. Think of it like taking the team to the gym. Two examples are Disruption Mondays, a weekly low-cost experiment to challenge some sacred company rule, and Internal Guerrilla Warfare, a monthly exercise where one team literally designs a plan to destroy the company, forcing everyone to think like the enemy.
But look, a safe team of risk hunters is completely useless if they're stuck in bureaucratic mud. So the final piece of this puzzle is engineering speed directly into your decision-making process. And to do this, you use a really simple but incredibly powerful mental model. You categorize every single decision into one of two types. Door 1 decisions are irreversible. You can't go back. Those need deep debate and, 70 to 80% of the information. But you'll find that most decisions are door 2. They're reversible. For those, you empower your team to go, to execute, with just 40% of the information. You bias towards action because you know you can always change course later. And to break that old habit of overanalyzing everything, the high-voltage leader drills this one mantra into everyone's head. When in doubt, choose the option that creates more movement. This simple rule prioritizes creating momentum and generating new data over finding the perfect consensus. It's always action over analysis. And here it is. This is how the whole system works together, like a self-reinforcing flywheel. At the center, you have the high-voltage leader. They create psychological safety, which kills fear. That allows you to recruit hunters who thrive on this stuff. You train them with the risk diet, which builds their muscle. And that enables fast decisions, which generate pure data that feeds right back into the team's security. And the whole cycle starts over, but with even more momentum. It all boils down to this: a powerful manifesto that represents a complete mindset shift. You detest false security because you know stability is just a hallucination. You know that silence is expensive. You celebrate the scar, not the perfect record. You choose speed over consensus because paralysis is poison. And maybe most importantly, you embrace mandatory unlearning. You're willing to burn the old success manuals before they become your cage. In the end, the message is a challenge. In this new era, the goal isn't just to survive the storm, it's to build a team that actually evolves because of it. The only question left is, are you ready for the next jump?